everyone, my name is Josh and this is Whimsical and Interesting Musings, and today I'm going to be talking about something a little bit different. I usually talk about films or books or, music or whatever happens to be on the topic. I'm going to be talking about, and I usually talk about TV shows as well, do an overview of a show. But in this particular case, I'm going to be talking about a TV show which a lot of people might know. It's an Emmy Award-winning show. It's called Succession. And this show is written and created by British TV writer Jesse Armstrong. And he basically, before he created Succession, he created shows like Fresh Meat, Peep Show. I think he also wrote The In-Betweeners as well. And he also did shows like In the Thick of It, which stars Peter Capaldi, which basically is the same thing. It has this kind of like fly on the wall, The Office kind of feel to it, where it feels like almost like a mockumentary and how the camera zooms in and out of characters' profiles and things like that, and gives these, tracking shots and things like that, and you kind of feel like you watch a documentary almost, or like a mockumentary kind of thing. And this show follows the Roy family. And the Roy family are basically this upper-class American family who run a multimedia company. And the head of the family, Logan Roy, played by the wonderful, the brilliant Brian Cox, he is basically on the verge of becoming basically old, withered and senile. And literally the opening of the show is him going to the toilet, standing up and peeing into the bowl, but then missing it and going straight onto the floor. Literally, he knows that he's on his way out. He literally is losing his memory. He's literally, going through the motions of almost, he has a lot of the characteristics of almost like someone who's about to have a stroke kind of thing. But he also is someone who is very on top of things. He is very, sharp. He is very kind of, he is very kind of, on the ball in certain points as well. So it's very hard to tell what he actually is going through in the first season. But he basically has 4 children, one of whom is much older, played by that guy from Ferris Bueller's Day Off, the main character besides Matthew Broderick. He is trying to become a politician, and he tries to get in good with his father in order to make sure that happens. But he knows that he can't succeed Logan Roy or run the company because he has bigger ambitions than that. So it's left to his siblings, Kendall, Roman and Shiv, short for Siobhan, Roy, to basically fight for the role of his successor. And it's a very kind of strange show. When I first started watching it, I thought, why am I watching this? Because I kind of found myself thinking, okay, it's about a bunch of rich arseholes who are from America, and they're fighting over who could have the biggest silver spoon, essentially, who can have the biggest golden spoon or silver spoon. And they go to dinner parties, they go to conferences, and all sorts of things in between. And I'm thinking to myself, why should I care about any of this stuff? Because I don't care about these characters. They're rich, for one thing. I'm not rich. I live in pretty much, the same house that I grew up in. I'm not made of money. I don't have loads of money coming in. So why should I relate to this? Why should I relate to this in any way? But then when I found out it was a comedy, or it was a tragic comedy, or a dramedy, I immediately thought, oh, that's what this is supposed to be. But that didn't stop me from getting depressed every once in a while when I was watching this show. Like, that entire scene. So basically, the entire pitch of the show is that these kids are trying to get the position of this chairman job from, Logan Roy. And they go through all sorts of things. They go to mergers. They go to all sorts of different events to try to get people, big investors, to invest in the company so they can get, more clout. But throughout most of it, they are struggling through family drama. And one of the biggest arcs of the entire show is how abusive the relationship between Logan and Kendall is. Kendall is basically the second oldest, and he basically is someone who's kind of distanced himself from the family. He has a family of his own. He has, 2 children, 1 boy and 1 girl, one of whom is autistic. and he basically has been trying to raise them, but he's been struggling with alcohol and substance abuse. And just when he's come back and he sees his father, he goes, "Hi, Dad." And his dad goes, "Oh, they let you out of the loony bin, did they?" And he goes, "Oh, it's called rehab now, Dad." And I absolutely love that exchange. Logan Roy is probably one of my... I wish I actually thought about him when I was making my list of characters that everyone's supposed to hate but I love, because he literally is one of those characters who he doesn't give a damn. He doesn't give a damn who you are. He doesn't give a damn if you're the Queen of England. He doesn't give a damn if you are literally, you know, the second coming of Jesus Christ. He doesn't care who you are. If he thinks you're talking a load of rubbish, he'll tell you you're talking a load of rubbish, and then he'll tell you to F off. And I think that's one of the things that I really love. And it's so brilliant that even Brian Cox even admitted that when the show was out, he immediately got stopped by people, and people were telling them to say, "Oh, come on, just tell me to F off. Just tell me to F off." And I thought, why would you want that? But then you kind of can get it when you hear what he has to say and how he says it, because the writing is so good. Jesse Armstrong is a fantastic writer. And I think what's really interesting about this show is you don't give a damn about the characters, but you are kind of almost morbidly fascinated to see where it's going to go. It's like watching a train wreck or watching a car pile up. You're devastated and you are absolutely shocked and appalled, but at the same time you can't help but keep watching, because that's something that this show does very well, is you don't care about the characters on an emotional perspective, but you do kind of just start to see where they're coming from. And if anything else, Succession is a character study show. It's a story about, you know, what these people are willing to do to obtain power and to obtain respect from the main head of this family, who is Logan Roy. And it's very funny. It's very dark. It's also very, very... it's very much an acquired taste. Not everyone is going to love this show. And I certainly was kind of debating when I first watched it whether I was going to enjoy it. But when I found out that it was actually meant to be a comedy, I actually found it much more, you know, much more palatable, because you have such a darker framework around it. It is very hard to make it funny. But what's very good is it is funny. It is basically a commentary on class and these kind of uptight social douchebags in this sort of American multimedia company. It basically is a parody of the Trump family, the Trump legacy, and the likes of Elon Musk, you know, these very kind of popular, rich, wealthy individuals who really have nothing to offer outside of the fact that they've got a business brain. That's all they have outside of themselves. They have a business brain and that's it. They have no other talents. They have no other original ideas. I mean, Kendall, he basically is a guy who's literally on the brink of being 40, yet he dresses like he's a 28-year-old. He dresses like he's someone like me. And I found that really funny, but I found it almost very tragic, because it almost feels like he wants to recapture his youth, hence why he likes to listen to a lot of rap music and things like that. And can I just say, that rap music sequence in season 3, I think it was, where he does it for his father's birthday, that was so cringeworthy. It really was. Like, I really could have found myself looking and watching it between my eyes. Like, it's one of those things where I just thought, please stop doing that, please, Kendall, because you are embarrassing. But I have to say, these characters are hilarious. I absolutely think Roman is drop dead funny. Some of his lines of dialogue are absolutely hilarious. I love the scene where he is at the board meeting with the secretary. I've forgotten the secretary's name, but she's been with Logan for ages, and he starts to develop an obsession with her, and he starts texting her things, and then eventually he sends a dick pic, and he's meant to send it to the secretary, but he ends up sending it to Logan. And it's really funny. I found myself going, "Oh my god, you idiot, why did you do that?" Oh, I absolutely love Roman. He's awful and he's horrendous, but he is hilarious. Like, a lot of his sequences are brilliant. But yeah, I think he is a really great character, but I loved it. I think season 4 was my favourite season out of the bunch because it is the final one, but it's not only that, but it's a very good place to kind of look at the show from from an inward perspective, because you're looking at it from a very outward perspective, and you're kind of marveling at the spectacle of the fact that they go to these fancy dinners and these balls and things like that, and they have these very big events where they're talking to people, they dress up nicely, and they get talking to investors and things like that. You don't really get much insight into their internal world until you don't really get to tear them apart until. By the way, there's big spoiler alerts for the entirety of this show going forward. So can you please, if you want to check out the show and you're intrigued, please click off this video and go and watch it. Go and watch all 4 seasons. They are brilliant. And come back and look at this video when you've caught up, because I'm going to go into spoilers. So I'm going to give you guys a moment to leave, and then when that happens, we'll talk about the rest of the series. So. Halfway through, or not even halfway through season 4, Logan Roy dies. And this was a big shock to me. I genuinely thought that, okay, this is weird, because part of me was expecting a twist that he secretly wasn't dead, or that he was, pretending to be dead just to get the attention of his children and kind of get them to cry and mourn. And I thought the big twist was going to be that he was going to show up at the end of the show and it was going to say, big surprise, I'm actually not dead. But no, he actually does die. They do a Game of Thrones on us and actually, have him die right there, quite unexpectedly, really, in many ways. And it's not really given much hype either. Like, really, there's no real build up to it, and it really does give you this impression that, oh my god, Logan's dead, and that's it. But what's really great about this moment is you really get to break apart the Roy children at this scene, because you really do get, not that you haven't been doing that before, you really do get a sense of that whenever they're trying to see his approval. For the past 3 seasons, you see a lot of their character flaws. Like the fact that Shiv thinks she's this really intelligent person, she thinks she's very independent and she's very strong, but in reality she can't say boo to a goose. So the fact that she literally is so hard and fixated on this idea of impressing her father and trying to do all these things really goes to show that she isn't really that intelligent at all. Roman is someone who talks a very big game, he's very funny and he's very devil-may-care, but when he's in the presence of his father, he shrivels like a lamb in front of his own father, and he absolutely feels just as vulnerable as a child when he is in that situation, and it really is quite a very devastating thing to see. But you really do, when he dies, you really do get to pull back the mask and you really start to see these characters for who they really are, as opposed to what they could be or what they think they are. And it really is a great retrospect. It really is quite a great reversal on everything that we've seen so far, because we see Roman at his funeral, his father's funeral, break down and cry in front of everyone at the church that they go to have this service at. And we get to see basically Kendall kind of get back some of that power, some of that agency that he felt that he lost. And Shiv kind of gets her chance to shine in the spotlight. But there is a certain underlying tragedy to this entire thing, because you really do get this sense that they all did it out of love. They all did it out of love for their father. They wanted his approval, hence why they all kind of fought tooth and nail for this position that he was offering them. But in many ways, I'm going to quote a line that Logan said in one episode in the early seasons. It's all a case of ball on the floor, isn't it? Like, it's all a case of, you're going to crawl on your hands and knees and I'm going to throw you meat to pick up and chew on. Like, that's all I'm doing. He basically is treating his children like cattle, and that's essentially what it really is. So why should I care? And in a certain degree, I kind of still didn't care by the time that the show ended, but there was a lot of things in this show that made me think to myself, wow, I literally found myself, I didn't want to get choked up during Logan Roy's death, but the way it was shot and the way it was delivered, it was really heartbreaking. So I really do respect Jesse Armstrong and his team of writers and directors for actually doing this, because they really did a good job of remaking a character who is a total arsehole. He is a total douchebag, but he really is a well-performed character and a well-rounded character, because he's the perfect example of show don't tell, where you get little hints through the way he looks at people and the way he, behaves around other people. Like, there's a scene where he's in the pool at his luxury manor, and he literally has a shot where, you see the strikes, like the whip strikes on his back. That gives you an insight that he went to boarding school. He grew up in a very disciplined household. He grew up in a boarding school, so he wasn't around family that often. And there was a backstory, I think, where he brought back a very deadly disease, and it might have been the cause for his sister's death, so he had that weight on his shoulders. And Logan and his relationship with his father seems very similar to the relationship that Kendall and Logan have with each other, in the sense that the father didn't really take him all that seriously, and in many ways he was just basically finding a way to seize him by his weak points and kind of take advantage of that. Hence why at the end of the first season, when he finds himself in that accident with that waiter, he finds it an opportunity to really kind of play on Kendall's weaknesses and actually seize power. But what's very interesting is when he dies, he loses all that power, and the children, his children, end up losing some of that motivation. And to a certain extent, the whole Succession storyline is basically an example of a Hitchcockian MacGuffin. And for those of you who don't know what a MacGuffin is, I referenced it in my Mother's Ruin review for Inside Number 9, where a MacGuffin is meant to basically be an object. It can be an object, it can be a place, it can be, anything. It can be the diamonds in the safe. It can be the gold bars on the back of a truck in The Italian Job. It can be the plans of the fort in Rudyard Kipling's greatest works of literature. It can be anything. A MacGuffin is meant to be something, an object preferably, that the characters are going crazy for, but the audience don't care. And that's something that, is essentially, that's the whole entire idea about who gets named successor in Succession, is you don't care. You don't care who gets it. You just kind of are more interested in what people are willing to do to get it. It's like a wonderful thought experiment thing where you're kind of, it's not so much the idea of the pit, it's not so much the pitch itself, but it's the idea of what are people willing to do to get that, gold bar or whatever it is, or whatever end goal they have. So I think that's the real charm of Succession, is it really kind of puts you in this position where it kind of rewrites the rules of how to write a TV series, because for the most part, none of these characters are likable. They're all really kind of selfish, they're all egotistical, they're all douchebags in some way or another, but you do grow to appreciate what you get in terms of their interior landscape. And that's something that I really do think is a tremendous feast for the imagination, for the eyes, for the brain in terms of characterization and character development and a character study. But yeah, it's a really good show, and some of these people have gone on to do incredible things. Like, say, for example, one of the writers was behind the creation of the show Dead Ringers with Rachel Weisz. One of the directors actually ended up directing one of my favourite films of the last few years, The Menu, which is actually meant to be like a horror film version of Succession, where it has that very same style of humour, that very same dark, almost very tragic element to it, but then it's also really kind of funny in a very darkly comedic way. So there's a lot of that going on. There is a lot of, references to that. So I feel like this show has done a very good job. But yeah, I want to hear your thoughts about Succession in the comments. Let me know what you thought about this show. Did you like the show when you watched it? Did you not like the show? Who were you rooting for to obtain the succession? Did you think the right guy who got it? And if so, what were your reasons for that? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments of this show. And let me know what you think about Logan Roy. And let me know in the comments, do you think I should do a separate video on Logan Roy and who he is as a person? Because I feel like, because he wasn't featured on my list of characters that everyone hates but I love, I feel like I want to give him more time to... I want to give more time to this character and really flesh him out a bit more and really kind of, give my thoughts on what his backstory essentially is. I might have essentially covered it in this video. But yeah, I want to know your thoughts. And I hope you all enjoyed this video, and I hope you're all having a very good day. This has been Josh with Whimsical and Interesting Musings, and if you like this video, please be sure to give it a thumbs up, and let me know what you think in the comments of this show, and let me know what other shows you want me to tackle in the near future. Let me know in the comments. This has been Josh with Whimsical and Interesting Musings. Take care, bye for now.